That thought, their greatest success came just one step beyond where defeat had overtaken them. Wow, that really hits you, doesn't it?
It really does. Makes you think, how often do we stop just short?
Exactly. And that idea, that persistence, is kind of what we're digging into today. Welcome, everyone, to the Deep Dive.
Today we're tackling a giant, Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah, a classic. And look, this isn't just about, piling up cash. Hill distilled the experiences of over 500 incredibly wealthy people. People who often started with nothing more than thoughts, ideas, and crucially organized plans.
It's quite a claim, isn't it? Over 500 people. And this whole project was sparked by Andrew Carnegie himself.
Right. Carnegie believed there was this specific secret to making money, to achieving success, and he felt it needed to be shared. He basically challenged Hill to figure it out and spread the word.
A 20-year challenge, no less. That's some serious conviction.
Absolutely. So for you listening, our mission today is to pull out the core insights, the actionable stuff from this really dense book. We want to give you that shortcut to understanding these success principles without getting totally bogged down.
Think of it as your curated tour. We'll hit the highlights, some surprising facts, and the advice you can actually, mull over and maybe use.
And the book covers so much ground. The right mindset, personal power, but also tackling fear. It's all based on decades of research and real stories.
Real people, real results. That's the promise.
Okay, let's get right to it then. This secret Carnegie was so keen on. What exactly is it? Or how does Hill present it?
Well, Hill presents it as the fundamental key, Carnegie's own secret weapon, you could say. And Carnegie's challenge wasn't just academic. He wanted Hill to spend, 20 years or more figuring it out precisely so it could be shared, especially with people who didn't have obvious advantages.
20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Based on one core idea. And you said it wasn't just theory. People actually use this.
Oh, definitely. Hill makes a big point that this wasn't just some philosophical concept. He says thousands of people tested it, from all sorts of backgrounds, all walks of life. It wasn't meant to be exclusive.
Okay, so who are we talking about? Any specific examples early on?
Yeah, he gives a few really compelling ones. There was Arthur Nash, a tailor in Cincinnati. His business was apparently circling the drain near bankruptcy.
Okay.
He applied this secret, this formula, and not only turned things around, but reportedly made millions in publicity, too. It was a massive success story.
Wow, from near bankrupt to millions in positive press.
Yeah.
That grabs your attention. Anyone else?
There's Stuart Austin Weir down in Dallas. After he learned the secret, he completely changed careers. He was doing something else, then decided to study law.
A big shift.
Huge. And the implication is he became very successful as a lawyer. It shows the secret isn't tied to just one field,
Right. It's adaptable. Not just fixing a business, but maybe finding a whole new path.
Exactly. And then Jennings Randolph. He apparently received the secret right when he graduated college.
So like day one of his career.
Pretty much. Which suggests these principles work right from the get-go, potentially giving you a head start.
Almost like getting the cheat codes just as you start the game.
Yeah.
And didn't Hill have a personal story about this too? With his son.
Yes, that's a powerful one. While Hill was actually writing the book, his son, who was finishing college, read the manuscript.
Okay.
And apparently the son grasped the secret himself, applied it immediately, and landed this incredibly high-paying job straight out of school. A job earning more than many people make over years.
So the son figured it out just from reading the draft.
That's the story. It wasn't nepotism. The son recognized the principle and acted on it. It really underscores that this is meant to be practical, something you can do.
Right, not just abstract philosophy, tangible results.
Mm-hmm. And Hill explicitly tells the reader, you, the listener, to be actively searching for the secret within the material. The idea is recognizing it for yourself is the real key.
Okay, so we're on the lookout for this underlying secret, but Hill does lay out more specific strategies. Let's talk about desire. The power of desire in having a definite purpose.
Absolutely fundamental. This is maybe the starting point for everything else. He tells the story of Edwin C. Barnes.
The guy who wanted to work with Edison.
That's him. His burning desire wasn't just to work for Edison, but to be his business associate. It took him 5 years. 5 years.
That's dedication.
And the key thing, Hill says, was that from day one, even when he was doing, low-level jobs at Edison's lab, Barnes mentally saw himself as Edison's partner. That conviction was unwavering.
That mental certainty. That's powerful. It wasn't just a wish, it was a belief.
Exactly. And look at Marshall Field, the department store magnate. His huge Chicago store burned down in the Great Fire.
A massive setback.
Total devastation. But his immediate burning desire was to rebuild right there on the same spot and make it the world's greatest store. That intensity, that focus, that's the kind of desire Hill's talking about. It drives action, overcomes obstacles.
So desire isn't passive, it's an active driving force. And Hill actually breaks down how to turn that desire, specifically for riches, into reality, like steps.
Yes, 6 very practical steps. He's quite methodical about it. First, you have to fix in your mind the exact amount of money you desire. No vagueness, be specific.
Okay, exact amount, got it.
Second, determine exactly what you intend to give in return for that money. What value, what service, what product. It's always an exchange.
Makes sense. No something for nothing. What's next?
Third, set a definite date, a deadline by which you intend to possess the money. This creates urgency.
Right, a target date.
Fourth, create a definite plan for carrying out your desire, and this is crucial. Begin at once, whether you feel ready or not, to put this plan into action.
Plan, then act immediately. Don't wait.
Exactly. Planning without action is just dreaming. Fifth, write it all down. A clear, concise statement. The amount, the time limit, what you'll give in return, the plan. Get it on paper.
Write it out. Okay. And the last step?
Sixth, read your written statement aloud, twice daily. Once just before bed, and once right after waking up. And as you read, you have to see, feel, and believe yourself already in possession of the money.
Ah, so it's about embedding it deep in your subconscious. That visualization and belief part seems key.
Absolutely. It's about programming yourself for success, constantly reinforcing that definite purpose. Now, tied very closely to this desire is imagination.
Right, the idea of seeing the riches in your mind before you see them in your bank account. More than just daydreaming, though.
Much more. He talks about being practical dreamers, people who have these big visions, yes, but also the ability and the will to actually do the work to make them real. Especially, he notes, in a world that's always changing, the dream needs a plan and action.
Practical dreamers. I like that. And he gives examples, right? Historical figures.
Oh yeah, plenty. He points to Columbus, dreaming of a new world and then sailing off into the unknown. Copernicus, imagining a different cosmos.
Big thinkers.
Whelan, who built the huge United Cigar Stores chain from basically an idea. Lincoln, holding on to the dream of united nation through the Civil War. The Wright brothers, obsessed with flight when everyone said it was impossible. Edison, dreaming up invention after invention.
They all faced huge obstacles, didn't they?
Massive skepticism, failures, setbacks. But the dream, the vision, fueled their practical, persistent action. It wasn't just fantasy, it led to concrete steps.
Right. And didn't he mention Charles Dickens, too? In a slightly different way?
Yes, that's interesting. He talks about how Dickens channeled the heartbreak and tragedy of his first love into his writing, creating masterpieces like David Copperfield.
So transmuting negative emotion into creative work.
Exactly. Taking that powerful emotional energy, even if it's painful, and consciously directing it into something constructive, something creative. That's imagination at work, too.
That's a fascinating idea. Okay, so desire, imagination, and then faith comes into play, doesn't it?
Yes, faith is huge in the book. Hill calls it the eternal elixir. He says it's what gives life and power to our thoughts. It's described as the only way we can really tap into what he terms infinite intelligence.
Infinite intelligence.
Yeah.
That sounds profound. And he links faith directly to this idea of autosuggestion.
He does. Autosuggestion is basically the principle that whatever thoughts you consistently feed your mind, whether they're true or false, you eventually come to believe them.
So self-talk.
Essentially, yes. But it's powerful. It can build you up if it's positive or, tear you down if it's negative. It's a tool. And like any tool, it can be used instructively or destructively. And we often do it unconsciously, especially the negative kind.
Our inner critic running wiles, baby. So the key is to consciously direct this process.
Precisely. Use autosuggestion deliberately. Feed your subconscious mind positive affirmations, statements of your goals, and back it up with unwavering faith that you can achieve them. It's about actively planting the seeds you want to grow.
And he shares that incredibly moving personal story about his son again, related to faith, doesn't he?
Yes, the story about his son being born apparently without the ability to hear. Doctors diagnosed him as likely deaf and mute for life.
Devastating news.
But Hill refused to accept it. He held this intense, unwavering desire and faith that his son would hear and speak. He focused immense effort on this, looking into things like bone conduction, which was pretty new then.
So it wasn't just wishing, It was faith combined with determined action.
Exactly. And remarkably, the son did eventually develop hearing and speech. But the story doesn't stop there.
No.
The son also showed incredible initiative. As a kid, he started a little business, showing resourcefulness. And later in life, having overcome his own hearing challenge, he became involved in developing and selling hearing aids, helping others.
Wow. Turning his biggest challenge into his life's work, essentially.
It's an amazing testament to that power of desire, faith, and finding strength in adversity. Really underscores that limitations can often be overcome.
Truly inspiring. Okay, let's shift gears slightly. Knowledge. The book makes a distinction about the type of knowledge that matters.
Right? Yes, a really important one. He distinguishes between general knowledge and specialized knowledge.
And which one does he value more?
Specialized knowledge. He argues that a truly educated person isn't someone who just knows a lot of random facts. It's someone who knows where to get the specific knowledge they need for their purpose, and more importantly, how to organize and apply that knowledge into practical plans.
So it's not about being a walking encyclopedia, but knowing how to find and use information effectively.
Exactly. And the famous Henry Ford story illustrates this perfectly.
The one in court.
Yeah. Ford was being grilled by a lawyer trying to make him look ignorant because he couldn't answer general knowledge questions. Ford finally got fed up and said something like, "I have a row of electric push buttons on my desk, and by pushing the right button, I can summon to my aid men who can answer any question I desire."
Huh. Great response.
His point was clear. Why clutter his own mind with general facts when he knew how to access experts? It's about knowing how to gather and utilize specialized knowledge, often through other people.
Which ties back to that network idea, maybe the mastermind concept we'll get to.
Precisely. General knowledge is easily available, relatively cheap. Specialized knowledge, applied through smart ideas and organized plans, that's where the real value is created.
And this was true even back then, the need for specialization.
Apparently so. Hill quotes a Columbia University official, Robert P. Moore, saying that employers were increasingly looking for specialists, not just general grads. They wanted people with specific skills who could do specific things.
So accumulating knowledge isn't enough. Application is key. And this leads to organized planning, especially for your career.
Yes. If you're looking for a job or want to advance, Hill says, don't just send a resume. Create a detailed written plan. He gives an example of a woman who prepared this comprehensive brief about her qualifications, what she could offer, how she'd benefit the company.
Like a sales pitch for herself.
Exactly. A very professional, strategic one. And because she presented her values so clearly, she got a much higher salary than she probably would have otherwise. She created the opportunity.
Taking control, being proactive. And again, this connects to the mastermind.
Yes. The mastermind principle is introduced here as an alliance. Two or more people working together in perfect harmony to create and execute plans, often for accumulating wealth. But it has to be reciprocal, everyone needs to benefit, and they need to meet regularly to keep the synergy going.
Leveraging collective brainpower and effort. Okay, but even with great plans, desire, a mastermind, setbacks happen, right? Failure seems inevitable sometimes.
Almost guaranteed, according to Hill.
Right.
But he reframes it. Temporary defeat isn't failure, it's just a signal.
A signal of what?
A signal that your plan is flawed. It's feedback. It means you need to rethink, rebuild the plan, maybe get more knowledge, but not quit.
So defeat is just a detour, not a dead end.
Exactly. He points to Henry Ford again. Ford had huge setbacks early on. Samuel Insull, the utility guy, lost a fortune in the Depression, but his core ideas were sound. He had to adapt. They didn't let defeat define them. They learned, adjusted, and kept going.
Which leads to that famous mantra.
A quitter never wins, and a winner never quits. Simple, but profound. That's the essence of persistence.
And how do you develop that persistence? Does he give pointers?
He does. It requires a strong motive or desire, that burning desire we talked about. Self-reliance, definite plans, accurate knowledge, willpower, and habit-making persistence, a habit. Notice how these all tie together.
Yeah, it's all interconnected. And more stories to back this up.
Oh, yes. He tells of Fannie Hurst and Kate Smith battling rejection after rejection on Broadway for years before finally breaking through because they just wouldn't give up.
Unwavering effort.
And even Wallace Simpson pursuing the man she loved against massive opposition. It highlights that persistence, that refusal to quit, is often the deciding factor, maybe even more than raw talent.
It really drives home that success often isn't about the easy path, but the willingness to keep pushing. Okay, we mentioned the mastermind for planning. Does he take that idea further?
He does. He talks about a psychic phase of the mastermind, beyond just pooling knowledge and effort.
Psychic. What does he mean by that?
He suggests that when two or more minds work together in perfect harmony, something else happens. A third, intangible mind or force is created, like a collective consciousness emerges.
That sounds a bit out there.
It is, but he bases it on the idea that the mind is energy. And when harmonious minds combine their energy, it creates something greater than the sum of its parts. He says Andrew Carnegie fully believed his 50-person mastermind group was the source of his fortune, not just a tool.
So the synergy creates this amplified energy, and everyone in the group benefits.
That's the idea. This increased energy, intellectual, creative, maybe even spiritual, becomes available to each member, potentially leading to breakthroughs and insights they wouldn't have alone. He points to Henry Ford's most successful period, coinciding with his close friendships with Edison, Firestone, Burroughs, Burbank. A powerful mastermind circle.
Like a think tank, but with this added energetic dimension. Interesting. Now, another topic that might seem surprising in a wealth book, sex transmutation. What's that about?
Okay, so sex transmutation, as Hill defines it, is about redirecting the powerful energy associated with sexual desire towards other creative outlets.
Redirecting sex drive.
Essentially, yes. He argues that the sex drive is the most powerful human desire, and when people are strongly motivated by it, they tend to develop more imagination, courage, willpower, persistence, creative ability, all the things needed for success.
That's a bold claim, the most powerful desire.
He believes its energy is so potent that when it's consciously channeled, transmuted into work, art, innovation, whatever, it can fuel genius.
So harnessing that primal energy for other goals.
Exactly. He even connects it to sales success, suggesting that highly sexed individuals often possess a personal magnetism linked to this energy that makes them persuasive. The key, he stresses, is understanding and intelligently directing this energy, not suppressing it or letting it run wild destructively.
But understanding it, not ignoring or misusing it. And he mentioned the influence of women here, too.
Yes. He observes that many great leaders and achievers throughout history were deeply inspired or motivated by women in their lives, wives, partners, muses. It highlights how these powerful emotional connections and drives fuel achievement.
It's about the whole complex picture of human motivation. Okay, moving to maybe the most abstract concept.
Yeah.
The sixth sense. What does he mean by that?
He describes the sixth sense as creative imagination working at its highest level. It's the faculty through which you get sudden insights, hunches, flashes of inspiration. He suggests it might even connect us to the subconscious minds of others, or to infinite intelligence.
Like heightened intuition.
Kind of, yeah, your inner guidance system firing on all cylinders. He says it functions best when the mind is vibrating at a very high rate, often stimulated by intense desire, faith, or other strong emotions or mental stimulants.
So you need to be in a certain mental state to access it.
That seems to be the idea, a state of heightened receptivity. He gives examples, like Napoleon closing his eyes to think before big decisions, seemingly trying to tap into some higher wisdom.
Interesting. Any other examples?
Dr. Elmer R. Gates, an inventor, apparently had a method of sitting for ideas, deliberately creating a mental space to receive inspiration from his subconscious or beyond.
It's like actively trying to access a deeper source of creativity or knowledge. And this might connect to infinite intelligence.
He proposes it as the potential link. The sixth sense might be where our finite human mind touches that underlying universal intelligence that, runs the cosmos. It's definitely venturing into the philosophical, maybe even spiritual realm.
A profound possibility. Okay, let's bring it back to something very practical. Fear. Hill dedicates a lot of space to overcoming fear.
A huge amount. He identifies 6 basic fears he believes hold most people back. Fear of poverty, criticism, ill health, loss of love, old age, and death.
Big 6.
And crucially, he insists these are states of mind. They can be controlled. They're not inevitable realities.
Well, let's look at a couple. Fear of poverty. He seemed to think that one was particularly damaging.
Absolutely devastating, he argues. It paralyzes reason, stifles imagination, kills self-reliance, undermines initiative. It just poisons everything. He even links the collective fear of poverty after the 1929 crash to the actual severity of the Great Depression. Mass thought creating reality.
A self-fulfilling prophecy on a massive scale. Wow. What about fear of criticism? That feels very relevant today.
Very. He says it has deep roots, maybe social conditioning, fear of what others think. It stops people from trying new things, expressing individuality, destroys ambition. Symptoms: Timidity, lack of initiative, always playing it safe.
That fear of judgment can be crippling, holding back so much potential, and fear of ill health.
Closely tied to negative autosuggestion, worrying constantly about getting sick, focusing on every little ache, the mind can actually help create the symptoms you fear. He also points out how this fear is exploited financially, people selling cures and treatments based on anxiety.
So our thoughts literally impact our physical health.
Mm-hmm.
And the other fears, loss of love, old age, death.
He touches on them, acknowledging their destructive power too. The main message across all 6 is, recognize these ghosts of fear as negative thought patterns. They need to be faced, challenged, and overcome with decisive action and positive thinking.
Control your thoughts, conquer your fears. But then he mentions something even more insidious than these 6.
Yeah, he talks about this devil that's more subtle, but maybe more fatal. Susceptibility to negative influences from others.
Other people's negativity.
Exactly. He claims successful people build shields against it, while unsuccessful people often just soak it up. Friends, relatives, coworkers, media. Negativity can seep in if you're not vigilant.
That's a sobering point. How do you fight that?
His advice is practical. Clean out your environment literally. He uses the example of tossing old medicine bottles, but metaphorically too. Ditch negative reminders. Seek out positive, optimistic people. And most importantly, guard your own mind. Don't just leave it open to absorb pessimism and doubt from everywhere. Be selective about what you let in.
Consciously curate your influences, internal and external. Makes sense. Now, to help people apply all this, he includes self-analysis questions.
Yes, a whole inventory. Really designed to make you look honestly at yourself, your habits, fears, goals, the people around you. It's about taking responsibility.
Can you share a few that really make you think?
Yeah.
For our listeners right now.
Sure. How about, have I defined my major purpose and created a plan to achieve it? That hits desire and planning. Or, do I suffer from any of the 6 basic fears? Which ones?
Just identifying them is huge.
Okay, self-awareness.
Then, am I shielding my mind against negative influences? Am I using autosuggestion constructively? That's about taking control, and this one's tough. Are my close associates mentally superior or inferior to me? Are they helping or hindering my progress? Really makes you evaluate your circle.
Oof, yeah. Those are direct. They force you to confront reality. And finally, he lists common reasons people fail.
Right. Based on analyzing thousands of lives, he came up with 30 major causes of failure. We don't need all 30, but some are really common.
Give us a few key ones. Okay, things like lack of a well-defined purpose in life, lack of ambition beyond mediocrity, insufficient education, meaning not having the specialized knowledge needed, lack of self-discipline, procrastination, the killer of dreams.
Familiar struggles.
Lack of persistence, giving up too easily, a negative personality that repels people, lack of controlled spending, living beyond your means, lack of enthusiasm, intolerance, vanity, and maybe the biggest, the habit of making alibis, making excuses for failure instead of learning from it.
That's quite a list of pitfalls.
Yeah.
But the whole point of the book is that applying its philosophy makes those excuses unnecessary.
Exactly. If you take responsibility, define your desire, make plans, build faith, use your imagination, persist, you overcome those causes of failure. You don't need alibis anymore.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive into Think and Grow Rich, what are maybe 2 or 3 absolute core takeaways for someone listening right now?
I'd say number 1, that potent mix of a burning specific desire coupled with a definite actionable plan. That's the engine. Number 2, recognizing and actively fighting those 6 fears, especially a fear of failure, by cultivating relentless persistence. Don't quit.
Desire plus plan and persistence over fear. Anything else?
And number 3, the understanding that you can control your thoughts. Use autosuggestion positively, maybe build a mastermind, and harness that power of your subconscious and collective intelligence.
It really comes back to mindset first, then translating that into focused, consistent action. The core message seems to be that success, however you define it, isn't luck. It's about applying these principles.
Pretty much, taking control of your inner world to shape your outer world.
Right. So, for our final thought today, for you listening, keep pondering that secret Hill talks about. He doesn't just spell it out easily. He wants you to discover it. Recognizing it for yourself might just be that turning point he promises. And maybe ask yourself this: which of those 6 fears might be whispering in your ear right now, holding you back? And was just one small, doable step you can take this week to start out winning it. Just one step. Because remember, the potential for your own growth and achievement, it really starts the moment you decide to take charge of your own mind.
Absolutely. That journey always begins with a thought, followed by action.